A dialogue of democracies. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has landed in Washington, D.C. for what is expected to be a historic U.S. visit. PM Modi will be meeting U.S. President Donald Trump for the first in the latter's second term, becoming the fourth leader after Israeli Prime Minister, Japanese leader and Jordan's king to meet Trump. The high-profile visit started with the U.S. intelligence chief Tulsi Gabbard meeting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, just hours after being confirmed for the coveted post. So what's on the agenda in this highly anticipated meeting between the two leaders? And how will the Trump-Modi bonhomie benefit India? One of the key issues on the agenda will be immigration. The Prime Minister will be in Washington days after President Trump deported 104 Indian nationals who entered the US illegally. Furthermore, the issue of the prized H-1B visa created a furor in the US in the early days of Trump's second term. The other highlight of the visit could be talks on the impending reciprocal tariffs that the US has warned could be announced any moment.
I do believe it will come before the Prime Minister's visit tomorrow, and I will let the President discuss the details on the reciprocal tariff front. But this is something he believes strongly in, and it's very simple logic as to why the President wants to impose reciprocal tariffs. It's the golden rule, which we all learned when we were growing up in school. Treat others the way you want to be treated. And far too many nations around this world have been ripping off the United States of America for far too long, and that's why the President believes this will be a great policy that will benefit American workers and improve our national security.
Analysts have warned that such levies could bring a broad tariff hike to emerging market economies like India and Thailand. Other key topics on the agenda can include defense purchases, civil nuclear cooperation, and security issues, including China's rising influence in the Indo-Pacific. With Donald Trump on a spree of signing one executive order after the other, India awaits what the 78-year-old's next move would be. Bureau Report for NDTV World.
And to know more on this, we have Meera Shankar, former ambassador to the United States, and we also have with us Harsh Pant, the Vice President of ORF, joining us. Thank you so much for speaking with us. Meera Shankar, over to you first. Two leaders, the bonhomie that the two leaders have shared. Can we expect the bonhomie between the two leaders to play out any different this time around from what we saw at the Howdy Modi event in 2019, followed by the 2020 Trump's trip to India?
Well, firstly, let me put it like this, that both Republican and Democratic administrations in the United States have sought to build the strategic partnership with India over the last few decades. So that is the framework within which the strategic partnership operates. Trump 2.0 is a far more confident administration in terms of putting into effect Trump's mandate for good or ill for the world. He enjoys a majority in the two houses of the Congress, and he has a conservative-leaning Supreme Court. So we are facing a Trump who is far less tentative and more assertive or aggressive in pursuing the national agenda that he has set out for the US. Having said that, there is an ideological affinity, if you will, between the BJP and the Trump administration, the administration of Prime Minister Modi and President Trump, because these are both conservative parties. And to some extent, their agendas are also similar. So I think that establishes a kind of level of trust, if you will, and there is a strategic convergence. So these factors will operate. As against this, you have Trump's national agenda, which, rubs against other countries in the areas of trade and immigration. And the challenge for India will be to, keep the focus on the broader strategic partnership, areas of potential convergence, and where the two countries can work together to take this partnership further, while managing the areas of potential dissonance in a way where they don't, cloud the entire relationship. And here I would say that that India in particular, because there's a huge asymmetry of power between the two countries, India in particular has to be very clear where it will stand firm, where it will dig in, and where it has flexibility. A stance of pure flexibility, I think, will lead to bullying. And on the other hand, a stance of complete rigidity will lead to negativity in the relationship. So finding that balance in dealing with the issues of immigration, trade, tariffs, this is going to be very important. But there are other areas like defense, upgrading India's defense capabilities, security, and here the previous speaker had mentioned terrorism and the activities of radical groups from US soil, the extradition of Tawahir Rana, and of course, in the field of energy, the potential for, purchasing more fossil fuel from the United States, also the possibility of cooperating in the area of nuclear energy, particularly small nuclear reactors, modular reactors, and of course, the whole area of technology, which will be very important from India's point of view. And here I think there are still hurdles in terms of the US regulatory framework in providing India access to the highest levels of dual use technology, as we saw in the regulation that the Biden administration had passed. And so I think this is going to be India's effort, saying you want India to buy more, then relax the regulatory framework so that your companies are able to sell more to us in the areas where we very much want to buy from you and also want to work with you in terms of collaborating on technologies. Beyond this, I think the two countries would really need to discuss the US's global stance, particularly the Indo-Pacific. How does it view its relationship with China? I think that's going to be very important as far as India is concerned,
right,
because the signals are not very clear. Is it going to be, a competitive relationship? Is it going to be one of tactical accommodation? We really don't know. And
right.
so
Ma'am,
I think
we also have Mr. Pant with us. Right. Mr. Pant, the meeting comes at a time when trade, defense cooperation and energy have really taken center stage when it comes to the ties between India and the United States. How do you feel going forward with this visit, a very crucial visit of Prime Minister Modi, 36-hour visit to the United States? How are things going to pan out differently?
I think this visit certainly allows the Prime Minister, allows India to frame a relatively long-term partnership over the next 4 years with the US, with the Trump administration. And I think coming as this visit does at this early in Trump 2.0's presidency, I think administration, we are looking at the possibility that some kind of predictability will be will inhere in this relationship now, because if you have a prime ministerial visit and you at this at this stage in the term of an administration, then I think it allows you to frame a policy framework which will look at the issues more cohesively and more in a way that perhaps allows for bigger give and takes to happen. So as was being mentioned,
given Donald Trump's transactional approach to global partnership, what kind of give and take can we expect?
I think that's where India's diplomacy will have to adjust to Mr. Trump. Transactionalism, of course, is part and parcel of diplomacy, but Mr. Trump is overtly transactional, which means that he overtly, explicitly demands that India does certain things, or any country, his partners do certain things. And I think in the case of India, for example, in his first phone call with the Prime Minister, he said that India must buy more defense equipment from the US, which in any case, America and India have been talking about, discussing, and there are a number of platforms that we have been talking about procuring from the US. So I think, one, that leverage that India is one of the biggest arms buyers in the market at the moment, and America is a growing partner there. That is certainly India. That's a leverage that India has. India also very explicitly said that we are willing to work with the Americans on the issue of illegal immigration. That is again something that that Mr. Trump's, it's a pet peeve of Mr. Trump, and there India has indicated that it is willing to work with Mr. Trump. So I think some of the indications that India has given is that it is willing to work on issues where there is a possibility of India giving in. And there are other areas, for example, economy, where in the recent budget we saw India announcing reduction in import duties and tariffs. And I think that is something, again, a message to Mr. Trump that we are willing to listen to him and listen to his concerns. So I think we are already seeing the game of negotiations being played out. The deal will have to be struck during this meeting that we will have today.
Right.